Hello guys. Today we'll be doing chapter 71, that is election of Lakshmikant, polity, Indian polity. I would also suggest you to kindly open your book so that we can read together. So, what are elections? How are they done in India? Who are the officers appointed for that? All of them will be covered in this particular chapter. Let us begin. So, what is an electoral system? Article 324 to 329 and Part 15 of the Constitution make the following provision with regard to the electoral system in our country. So these are the articles which will actually be telling you about the electoral system of India in Part 15. Part 15 of the Constitution. Understood? Okay, the Constitution, Article 324, this is I'm talking about. All these 1, 2, 3, 4 points will be subsequent 324, 325, 326, something like this. So, Article 324 provides for an independent election commission in order to be free and fair election in the country. So, what does Article 324 provide for? It provides for a free and fair election in the country. The power of superintendence, direction and conduct of election to the parliament, the state legislature, the office of the president and the office of the prime minister is vested in this commission. That is, which all elections are conducted by election commissions of the parliament, of state legislature, president, vice president, everything is vested in this commission. At present, the commission consists of chief election commissioner and the two election commissioners. Even of Rajya Sabha, the elections are conducted by the election commissioners. That is a union election commissioner. There is only one general electoral roll for every territorial constituency for election to the parliament and the state legislature. That is only one roll, that is only one list will be taken out for every one constituency for the election. Thus, the constitution has abolished a system of communal representation. There will be no communal representation in the sense that there will be no separate elections for only Sikhs, or no separate elections for only Muslims, or no separate elections for only Hindus. It will be a common general election. One roll will be taken out in which all the voters will be voting for the candidate they want to vote for. No person is to be ineligible for inclusion in the electoral on the grounds of, so which are the grounds in which you cannot be disqualified? On the basis of religion, caste, sex or any of them. So you cannot be discriminated on these basis, saying that you are not ineligible for the election because of different religion or different race, caste, sex or whatever. Further, no person can claim to be included in special electoral roll. You also cannot say that I am a specialized person because I am from this majority Hindu religion, so I should be given a separate communal role, or I am from minority religion of Muslim or Sikhs or Zoroastrians and I should be given a different communal role. That is also not fair. Nor can you say that I am a male or a female gender and hence I should be given some privileges. No, that is not the case. Thus, the Constitution has accorded equality to every citizen in the matter of electoral franchise. So, here we see adult suffrage and electoral franchise being the primary objective of the government and the Constitution, obviously. The election to the Lok Sabha and the state assemblies are to be on the basis of adult franchisee. Ones who are 18 years above age are entitled to vote for the election provided and is not disqualified under any provision made by the law, but except there are some grounds on which on the grounds of non-resident. If you're not residing in this country, obviously you're not allowed to vote. If you're of unsound mind, you're not. If you have a criminal background or you are corrupt or illegal practices are followed by you, then you might be disqualified depending on the discretion of the election commission. Parliament may make provision with respect to all the matters relating to election to the parliament. That is, with respect to election to the parliament, the election commission makes most of the provisions, and the parliament also makes with some provisions with respect to the elections of the parliament. And the state legislature, including the preparation of electoral rolls and delimitation of constituencies, that is dividing the constituencies, that this particular territorial area will be under this. So if you do not know, let me tell you that the smallest constituency that we have ever seen is of Chandni Chowk. It basically depends on the number of area constituted in that area. So on the basis of the population, we decide a constituency. Hence, we see that all the constituencies should almost carry equal number of people, and all other matters necessary for securing their due constitution. So Parliament may make. It is not compulsory. Parliament will make. Parliament may or may not, and basically it depends majorly on the election commission. The state legislature can also make provision with respect to all the matters. So whatever matters that Parliament and the state election the Parliament and the Union Election Commission is not able to make, that is then made by the state legislature. That is with respect to all the matters relating to elections to the state legislature, including the preparation of rolls, electoral rolls, and all other matters necessary for securing their due constitution. But they can make provision only on those matters which are not covered by the parliament. Once they are covered, obviously even if they make the rules, then the parliament's rule will be overriding them. Hence, the state cannot override the parliament's rule. The constitution declares that the validity of any law relating to delimitation of constituencies or allotment of seats to such constituencies cannot be questioned. The constitution states that once a delimitation committee has decided some constituency division, you cannot challenge or question it in the court. Consequently, the orders issued by the delimitation commission should be final and cannot be challenged in any court of law. Also, the constitution lays out that no election to the parliament or the state legislature is to be questioned except by the election petition, until unless you do not file an election petition. Here you will find a different word, election petition. This is not a common word. This is not a normal petition that anybody can file, but only an election petition presented to such authority in such a manner such that it is an appropriate election or some void or some corruption has taken place at that place. Then only do you file the election petition. Otherwise, it cannot be questioned. In 1996, the election petitions are triable by high courts alone. Since 1996, before 1996, it was tried in election commissioner. It was triable in election commissioner. But after 1996, it has been now made that it will be triable even in the high courts. Because high courts, if you see in the Chandra case, they were basically the tribunals and all these were bypassing the high courts, and directly you can reach by the appellate to the Supreme Court. Hence, there was a verdict in 1996 that election petitions are to be triable by high courts, but the appellate jurisdiction lies with the Supreme Court. Now, there was also an article 323A which is repealed. As I was talking about Chandra Kumar case, that you cannot bypass the you just cannot bypass the high courts. You will have to even go through the high courts, and then appellately you can go to the Supreme Court. So I was talking about 323A that was repealed, and now we have article 323B empowering the appropriate legislature, that is the parliament or the state legislature, to establish a tribunal or adjudication of election disputes. So article 323 gives you this power to set up a tribunal for election purposes. It was also provided for the exclusion of jurisdiction of all courts, that is, all courts are excluded except the special leave appeal jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. So this says basically, it says that Article 323, again I am repeating, it empowers the appropriate legislature to establish a tribunal for adjudication of election commission. Though so far we have never established any election tribunal, because it bypasses the high courts. So this basically this was never taken into consideration. However, it provided, article 323 provided that there was a condition of special appeal from tribunals. You can directly go to the Supreme Court by the system of special appeal that you apply in the Supreme Court, and then if Supreme Court agrees, they can take up your matter. It must be noted here that Chandra Kumar case, this particular case is very important. In the Chandra Kumar case of 1997, the Supreme Court declared this provision as unconstitutional. So Supreme Court said that making a tribunal is completely unconstitutional, and then by special appeal you are directly going to the Supreme Court. Why? Because if at any time the election tribunal is established, an appeal from its decision lies to the High Court. The High Court is the actual process of appeal and not directly to the Supreme Court. Let us see how does the election machinery work. Election Commission of India. Under Article 324, this article of the Constitution, the Election Commission of India is vested with the powers of superintendence. That is, the Election Commission is actually having the power of supervision, direction and controlling and conducting the elections of Lok Sabha and State Legislative Assembly. So ECI, the Election Commission of India, supervises all the elections of Lok Sabha, that is the parliament, as well as the state legislatures. The Election Commission of India is a three-tier body, three-member body, as well as three-member body with one as the chief election commission, that is 1 CEC, and 2 election commissioners, that is 2 EC. The President of India appoints the CEC and the EC. So who appoints? The President appoints. All the constitutional posts are generally appointed by the President. This is something that is now becoming very evident from all the studies that we have done. Let us study about the Chief Electoral Commission. Generally, these people are IAS or IPS or some gazetted post like this, one elected by or ones that have gone through such UPSC examinations. So the Chief Electoral Office of a state or union is authorized to supervise the election work in the state or union territory, subject to overall superintendence, direction and control of the election commission. The Election Commission of India nominates or designates an officer of the government of the state, union, territory of as the CEO in consultation with state, union, or UT. Alright, so you will see that CEO is generally an IAS or an IPS, generally an IAS, and he or she is elected by or nominated by the officers of the government of India, UT or state, and in consultation with state or union territory. Now, who is the DEO? Since CEO cannot manage all the tasks by himself or herself, hence we need some of the people more to work along in his team. So we have DEO. Subject to the superintendent direction and control of the chief of the CEO, the DEO supervises the election at district. So CEO overall he authorizes for the entire state. Now the state has multiple districts. So in that districts, the DEO is the person who will be managing or supervising all the elections. The Election Commission of India nominates or designates. So Election Commission then supervises and nominates and designates an officer of the state as the DEO in consultation with the state government. So you will see always you are consulting whom? State governments or the UTs, not the union in this case, because they are doing the election in respective states. So you need to have a say of the states as well. Then you have returning officers. Returning officer of a parliamentary or assembly is responsible for the conduct of elections in parliamentary or assembly constituency concerned. So who are the returning officers? Generally they are SDMs. ROs are responsible for conduct that implement the direction of above two. So basically whatever the Election Commission of India, the CEO and the DEO says, all those laws and all those directions are then implemented by the RO actually. So who is an RO? RO of Parliamentary or Assembly constituency is responsible for what? For conducting of elections in parliamentary or assembly constituency concern. The Election Commission of India nominates. Who this time who nominates? The Election Commission or the designates an officer of the government of local authority as returning officer for each of the assembly of the parliamentary constituencies in consultation. Again, whose consultation? In the states and union territories consultation. So if you see, the election commission is nominated by the president. All others are CEO nominated by election commissioner, nominates or designates. The election commissioner nominates, then here also the election commissioner nominates, and here also if you see, election commission only nominates the RO. So who nominates CEO, DEO and RO? Election commission nominates the CEO, DEO and RO. And the election commission also nominates one or more who assistant returning officer, because returning officer also cannot manage the entire district and entire place, so also need some assistant returning officers who are generally given as this task. Generally these are tehsildars to each of the assembly parliamentary council to assist the returning officer in the performance of his function in connection with the conduct of elections. Now let us see who are the EROs. The electoral registration officers is responsible for the preparation of electoral rolls for a parliamentary and assembly constituency. So what is its responsibility? To preparation of electoral, who will be coming to vote and who are there in the present constituency and etc. The Election Commission of India in consultation with states and UTs appoint an officer of the government. Now he shall be or she shall be an officer of the government of the local authority as the electoral registration officer. Alright, who shall be appointed this person? A person who is an officer of the government or the local authority of the electoral registration officer. In addition, the election commission also appoints one or more assistants. So here also you have assistant registration officer to assist the electoral registration officer in the performance of his duties in the matter of preparation, revision of electoral rolls. Who is the presiding officer? The presiding officer with assistants of polling officer conducts the poll at the polling station. So he shall be or she shall be helping the presiding officer in this work. So supposedly I'll show you. See, you have a general headmaster of the school where the elections are conducted. If you would have seen the movie Newton, you would have seen the elections were conducted in those Naxalites area in a school. So hence a headmaster is the presiding officer. He'll be looking over the overall election process, and then under him there will be multiple teachers who will be the POs, that is the polling officers. So in the case of union territories, such appointments are made by the returning officers. So returning officer made such an appointment. So the returning officer is himself or herself appointed by the election commission, and the returning officer then later on nominates or elects this person, makes an appointment of such presiding officers and polling officers. Alright. So let us see again what is the presiding officer's role. Presiding officer's role is to basically conduct the elections. Conduct the elections of a particular place, and the DEO will appoint the presiding officer and the polling officer in the state. Whereas in case of UTs, the appointments are made by the returning officers. And who appoints DEO and returning officers? The Election Commission. Alright, so let us see who are the observers. The Election Commission of India nominates officers of government as the observer or parliamentary and assembly constituencies. The Election Commission of India, who will nominate them? The Election Commission of India will nominate the officers of the government as observer for parliamentary and assembly constituencies. Now there will be different observers: general, expenditure, micro, police, so that all the election processes are in accordance with the constitution, in accordance with the laws. There is no unfair means used. So who are the general observer? The commission deploys, which commission? Election Commission deploys general observer in adequate number to ensure smooth conduct of elections. These observers are asked to keep a close watch on every stage of the electoral process to ensure free and fair elections. So they will supervise a overall election procedure. Now who are the expenditure? As the name suggests, they will supervise, or they will keep an eye on the expenditure of the parties. Expenditure observer from the central government services. From the central government services, these people are appointed. Central government services are appointed to keep a close watch on the election. Basically, IRS maybe, or maybe others. Those are which elected by, or those are selected by the central government, are appointed to keep a close watch on the election expenditure of the candidates and to ensure that no inducement is offered to the electors, that is no 500-600 rupees or maybe a bottle of something or something that is given to the electors during the entire election procedure for the exercise of their franchisee. Hence expenditure observers from the central government are appointed. From the central government, you have to remember this, not others, but you have to remember this, that expenditure observers are from the central government services and appointed by the election commission. Police observers. Police observers are IPS officers. Commission deploys IPS officers as the police observer of the state and district level, depending upon the sensitivity of the constituency. If the constituency is a little more sensitive, more you have more mafias, or you have more Naxalites in that area, then you might need to deploy a greater number of IPS officers there. They monitor all the activities related to force deployment, law and order situation, and coordinate between civil police administration to ensure free and fair election. So they may be in coordination with the civil and the police administration to ensure free and fair, and the police is under the state subject. Hence, the state will be continuous coordination with the police observers. Awareness observers. These are the ones which are included for the first time in the 16th Lok Sabha election, that is in 2004. That is the previous term of Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So these are the ones who will spread awareness, like sweep campaign. They are made to make people aware about the electoral rights, and these are continuously told them that these are their rights and these are the practices that are fair, and these are the ones which are corruption free, should not take advantage of the poor, and these are the conditions that are told to them, such certain rules, certain procedures. So awareness observers are for the first time total in the 16th Lok Sabha in 2014. The commission deployed CAO, that is Central Administrator Officers, to oversee the efficient and effective management of the electoral process at the field level. So at the ground level, they will be checking the report mainly in respect of voters' awareness and facilitation. Awareness observers are deployed to observe the intervention undertaken by the election machinery to bridge the gap between people's participation in the electoral process, particularly in regard to voter turnout. If you see, after this has been deployed, the awareness observer, our voter turnout has increased somewhere. You will see in the later part of this chapter at the end that there is a table which shows that this year was the highest number of voters recorded. They also monitor the various media related aspects of RPI, that is Representation of People Act 1951, and observe the mechanism directed by the commission and district levels on checking the problems of paid news. They also see if there are fake news or paid news against a particular party or against the voters or anything that might influence the voters. So they also monitor various social media platforms. Who are the micro observers? These are very important to note. Micro observers, in addition to general observers. Who are the general observers? Who will overlook, who will supervise the entire smooth functioning of the entire electoral process. The micro observers are somewhere a part of general observer. or we should say an extension of the general observer. The commission also deploys micro observers to observe the poll proceedings on the day of polling in selected critical polling areas. So these are critical polling stations. They are chosen from the central government or central PSU officials. So they are chosen from the central PSUs. Who were the ones who were chosen from the central administration services? The expenditure observers were from the central government services. And who are the ones who are from central PSU or central government PSU's officials? Micro observers. So micro observer verify the BMF. What is BMF? Basic minimum facility. At the polling station, that is, if there are VVPATs, and if there are the machines, and if there are proper lines, there are proper setup infrastructure set up for the people to vote. So these are the arrangements that they will have to look upon. There is a seal, there's a ink to mark who has voted, who has not voted. So micro observer verify BMF at the polling station and certify the same before the start of the polling. So they will check if the person who is at the who is the coordinator and the entire thing is wearing a badge, is wearing the identity proof. They observe the proceeding at the polling station on the poll day, right from the mock poll to the completion of the poll and the process of sealing of EVMs, that is electoral voters machine, and other documents to ensure that all instructions of the commission are compiled with by polling parties and the polling agents, and ensure that all the instructions are there and they are well known by them and they are well versed with the instructions. They also report the general observer directly. So whom will they report? They will report to the general observer directly about the vitiation, that is the corruption practices of the poll proceeding, if any, and their allotted polling station. So they will not go to the election commission, they will go and say this to the general observer. General observer will then say to election commission, and election commission will take it forward to the chief election CEO. So who will come from the central PSUs? Micro observers. Who are the assistant expenditure observer? Let us see. In addition to expenditure observers, assistant expenditure observers are appointed for each assembly segment. So these are for each assembly segment. Ensure that all the major election campaign are videographed and complaints of the electoral malpractice are promptly attended. So these are the ones who keep a close eye on expenditure, and they keep a close eye on all the proceedings of the entire election. They keep a very sharp eye on all these things, on major election campaigns and videographies that they are doing, and the rallies that they organize. What is the election process? Let us see election processes. We will look at the election process in our next video. Thank you.